This presentation is a summary of the 2014 annual report. Each of you should have a copy of the report in your folders and should reference it for greater detail. The 2014 fiscal year showed a decline in the number of Ontario licensed dairy farms to 3,896. However, these farms support about 9,600 farm families. Using the new entrant quota assistance program, 10 new entrants acquired quota on the exchange. As well, the new producer program had 85 applicants with 12 acquiring quota. With these producers, during the fiscal period ending October 31, 2014, DFO marketed 2.538 billion liters of milk, representing a total revenue of more than $2.072 billion. Food safety is essential to the dairy industry. Dairy Farmers of Ontario has the authority to administer and enforce the raw milk quality regulations. In support of his authority, DFO's Director of Production, George McNaughton, continued to carry out the duties of Director of Regulatory Compliance for the program. The role of the Director of Regulatory Compliance is independent of DFO's board. The standards are high, and almost 99% of all milk shipped in Ontario met or exceeded the provincial quality standards. In November 2011, the general rollout of the Canadian Quality Milk Program, known as CQM, began. It is an important quality control program, and as at October 31, 2014, 75%, or 2,927 Ontario producers, had been registered in the program. Registration was implemented over the 4 years since its rollout, and Ontario is on track to having all producers registered in the CQM program by the end of September 2015. Penalties are assessed to producers who do not comply with CQM. In 2014, 8 producers were assessed CQM penalties. There were 2,890 requested Grade A validation appointments, and 2014 saw penalties increased from 64 to 146, which can largely be attributed to unannounced inspections, planned outside Grade A inspections. DFO approves unannounced inspections to ensure quality standards are continuously met. For the year ending October 2014, there were 205 trucks picking up all milk and transporting to processors. The average year-over-year pool charge increased 1.04% from $2.7 to $2.73 per hectoliter. One of the key objectives over the year was to develop metrics to track transportation performance to understand costs and improvement opportunities. Route optimization will be used to mitigate costs and expand service levels. Milk processing in Ontario for the year ending October 2014 had 70 plants and 12 on-farm processors. 2.538 billion liters of milk was produced. The butterfat for fluid was 34.162 million kilograms, or 33%, and for MSQ was 67.315 million kilograms of butterfat, or 65%. And the Dairy Innovation Program contributed 1.724 million kilograms of butterfat. This represented a farm gate value of $2.072 billion. A Class 1 milk price increase was implemented across the P5 on February 1, 2014. The national formula, 50% CPI and 50% national COP, resulted in a February increase of 1.347% in fluid milk prices compared to the February 1, 2013 level. An industrial price adjustment of 1.0%, which affects classes 2 to 4, was effective February 1, 2014. This increase was in line with the CPI of 0.9%. For the 12 months ending October 2014, the within quota component prices paid to Ontario producers averaged $82.08 per hectoliter at Ontario average composition. This represented a 2.9% increase in the producer blend price compared to the previous fiscal year. The increase was a result of the price adjustments in February 2014 and strong world prices. DFO's Economics and Policy Division provides technical support and economic and statistical analysis to the policy development and implementation process at the national, pool, DFO board, and staff levels. The Economics and Policy Division is also responsible for the oversight of the Ontario Dairy Farm Accounting Project, which collects data from Ontario dairy farms for the national COP. Addressing the economics and policy in the year ending October 31, 2014, for the 12 months ending October 31, 2014, on a butterfat basis, P5 fluid milk requirements increased by 0.02%, industrial milk requirements increased by 3.3%, and innovation requirements, DDPIP and DIP, increased by 2.3%. Including the introduction of a growth allowance in December 2013, this translated into a net increase of 2.0% in P5 market requirements. Innovation requirements now account for 1.7% of the P5 provincial quota references. Over the same period, total market requirements, including the growth allowance for quota in the WMP market, increased by 3.4%. Having regard to milk supplies and quota utilization, for the period ending October 31, 2014, the P5 filled 99.8% of the issued quota for expected market requirements. The pool provincial cumulative difference, or the provincial credit position, was negative 0.76% at the end of October 2014. Producer quotas were increased by 1.5%, effective April 1, 2014, and by an additional 3.0% effective December 1, 2014. As of October 31, 2014, CDC butter stocks were 4,452 tons, and processor butter stocks were 8,470 tons. These levels were lower than the normal CDC stock levels of 8,000 tons for this year and approximately in line with normal processor stock levels of 8,000 tons. Market trends pointed to continued growth during fiscal 2014. Total Canadian butterfat requirements were forecast to increase by 1.8% by January 2015. The fluid milk market continued to be under pressure, with retail sales down 1.2%. Cream sales, although volatile, showed an increase, which has contributed to some of the increase in butterfat requirements. The P5 Quota Committee continued to monitor production levels and market requirements. The committee recommended, and the P5 provincial boards confirmed, 11 non-cumulative incentive days for the 2014 fall period: 1 day in July, 2 days in August, 3 days in September, 3 days in October, and 2 days in November. Certified organic producers in Ontario and Quebec were issued 3 incentive days per month from March 2014 to June 2014, and a total of 3 days during the fall period. The provincial boards also confirmed 10 non-cumulative fall incentive days for 2015, 2 days in August, 3 days in September and October, and 2 days in November. There were several national and pool policy developments over the fiscal year. The P5 Harmonized Milk Allocation Policy for allocating milk supplies to support Class 2A, yogurt, and Class 3A cheeses was approved for implementation at the January 22, 2014 P5 Supervisory Body meeting. The milk allocation policy follows the guidelines developed by the P10 Negotiating Committee and reflects the outcome of approximately 16 months of negotiations on allocation rules by a P5 working group. The P5 Harmonized Milk Allocation Policy was formally adopted and incorporated into DFO's Milk Allocation Policy in March 2014. P9 agreement in support of Class 2A and Class 3A product was dependent on the implementation of the P5 Harmonized Milk Allocation Policy for Class 2A and Class 3A product growth. The P9 agreement obligates the WMP to move milk supplies associated with their 1090 share of the national MSQ growth for Class 2A and Class 3A products to the P5 that is not required to support growth in the processing of these products within the WMP. Planned Export Program for Cheese Program was launched by the CDC in February 2014. It was approved by the CMSMC at its January 2014 meeting. A full day was devoted to the ingredient strategy and the policy changes that will be required to support it and modernize the existing supply management system at the DFC Policy Conference in February 2014. In March, the DFO board met with the ODC board for a special meeting to discuss the details and underlying policy implications. 2 of the 8 key elements include a world-priced class for fresh SNF and ingredients and end-use billing classes. Promoting greater unity among P5 producers and provinces through the harmonization of policies and regulations has continued to be at the forefront of the harmonization work done during the fiscal year. Work accomplished by the various committees was endorsed by all P5 provincial boards through the adoption of the following P5 mission statement and vision at the P5 Strategic Planning Conference held on September 30th and October 1st, 2014. Mission statement: to provide leadership and unify all P5 producers by effectively managing the continuous development of a vibrant, sustainable, supply-managed dairy industry. Vision: in 2018, P5 producers are united in optimal harmonized policies and common strategies that are market responsive and to achieve profitable growth of at least 2% per year. Work was also undertaken at the P5 Raw Milk Quality, Transportation and Quota Committee with significant coordination identifying quota policy review, and a detailed review process was agreed to, including developing uniform questions, consultation, and communication. This will continue into the 2015 period. Ethnic marketing initiatives. Changing Canadian demographics continue to drive the demand for more ethnically appropriate food products. More than ever, processors are interested in providing for these markets. DFO continued the strong and proactive approach to maximize the potential growth in this market by supporting processors' special needs for milk supply. DFO worked closely with the WMP, and last year a record number of 16 DIP applications were approved last year for the WMP. Demand for the program increased in the West, and cheese specialists were brought in to assist plants in the West as new products were identified. DFO has been identifying its own promotion and marketing opportunities over the past year, and was instrumental in the establishment of the new Recharge with Milk sponsorship for more than 70 minor hockey house league teams in the 13 to 14 years age division across the Greater Toronto Area. In August of 2014, DFO also announced its title sponsorship of the 2015 Ontario Men's Curling Championship to be televised on Rogers and Sportsnet. It is expected to attract over 18,000 spectators and more than 100,000 television viewers. In total, more milk was donated to Ontario food banks. The donations increased from 845,710 litres to 853,901 litres over the past year. Dairy Farmers of Ontario, Ontario Dairy Council, and the Ontario Milk Transport Association are proud supporters of the Ontario Association of Food Banks. Donations amount to over 2,500 litres of milk per day. Today, the milk program is the single largest ongoing food donation program across the province, serving over 375,000 individuals, including over 130,000 children each and every month. The milk is donated by dairy farmers, transported by the milk transporters, and processed and packaged by the dairy processors. The final product is delivered directly to food banks across the province. Thanks to everyone who participates in this program. A summary of producer deductions and administrative costs is shown on the screen. Average gross per hectoliter is $82.08, and after deductions, the net price was $77.107. More details are provided in the written report. Dairy Farmers of Ontario continues to place a high priority on producer communications. DFO's Communications Division is responsible for developing and implementing communication strategies with producers, processors, government, media, and the general public through the use of multiple communication channels, including a monthly magazine, regular bulletins and weekly publications, social media, and web services. The Communications Division is also responsible for the Dairy Education Program. The milk producer, dairy farmer update, and pipeline continue to be the cornerstones of the ongoing written communication efforts. DFO's website has continued to evolve to meet changing demands and opportunities. E-Pipeline, the newsletter produced for dairy producer committees, continues as an electronic publication provided by email to committee members. As well, E-Clippings, launched in 2011, provides an overview of media coverage for DPCs. Staff has received positive feedback on this email service. This is also posted on the DFO website. Use of web-based video conferencing has resulted in reduced travel costs and improved communication opportunities. It is being used for staff meetings involving DFO field service representatives, marketing division meetings involving external staff members, and for P5 staff meetings. Several issues attracted special media attention in 2014 for the dairy industry and DFO. Some of the stories included international trade issues, PETA protesters at DFO's January 2014 annual meeting, media reports on animal abuse, the deregulation of milk container sizes in Ontario, and a constitutional challenge before the Agriculture, Food, and Rural Affairs Appeal Tribunal of DFO quota policies. Animal welfare continued to be a main priority for DFO, both internally with ProAction and in the media. Social media continued to be an increasingly popular way for people to find, consume, and share information. While having played a role in social media for a few years, in August 2014, DFO launched its own Twitter account, @DairyOntario, and Facebook page Ontario Dairy. In September, a revamp of The Milk Producer was developed with the intent of launching it in January 2015. The revamp was to make the magazine more modern and easier to read. With its strategic decision to restructure the dairy education program by creating the new position Program Manager, responsible for development, management, and promotion of the dairy education program, DFO continued to look for ways to create greater efficiencies and grow its dairy education program. The dairy education program is an extremely important program to DFO. Improvements in its content and delivery attributed to an increase in teaching sessions. Regions that had not benefited previously from an educator have now done so with the hiring of new educators this past year. DFO's Corporate Service Division is responsible for budgeting, financial and accounting services, overseeing the corporate strategic planning process, human resources management, office and facilities management, project management, and information technology services. One major aspect of its responsibilities is the billing of processors and payment to producers and transporters. Pay What You Bid funds totaled $281,000 as of October 31, 2014. Of this balance, approximately $269,000 is committed to trade shows and other similar events, leaving a balance of $12,000 for future marketing initiatives. Unused funds will be combined with general reserves in 2015, and any outstanding commitments will be funded through regular operations. Video conferencing technology was installed at DFO in 2014 and has been used for various meetings, including DFO board committee meetings, P5 meetings, and meetings that include staff from remote locations. This has increased the flexibility to schedule meetings and will also result in future operational efficiency and effectiveness, including a reduction in travel costs. A contract to develop a new business application framework was signed in 2013 to replace the current computer system that is over 20 years old. This advanced technology will enable DFO to operate more efficiently and manage the business more effectively. Programming for the application framework began in 2014 and is targeted for completion for early fiscal 2016. The go-live date is targeted for the first half of calendar 2016. An agreement in principle was signed in 2013 and 8 marketing boards, British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and Prince Edward Island continued to work towards harmonization. Nick Thurler was acclaimed to represent the producers in Region 2 for his first term on the board. Ian Harrop was acclaimed to represent the producers in Region 6 for his third term on the board. Henry Whitehaven was elected to represent the producers in Region 10 for his first term on the board. Immediately following the adjournment of DFO's annual general meeting on January 9, 2014, the 4-year term of the newly elected board members commenced. A by-election was held in April 2014 as a result of Ron Versteeg's announcement to retire in January 2014. Peter Van Sluwen was elected to the board for the remainder of Region 1's 4-year term. At a special meeting of the board held on January 9, 2014, Bill Emmett was re-elected as chair. Ralph Dietrich was elected vice chair, and Paul Viss was elected second vice chair. Graham Lloyd was again appointed secretary to the board and general counsel, and Patrick Hopking was again appointed treasurer to the board. The board gratefully acknowledges the hard work, dedication, and loyalty of all staff members throughout another very busy year. Also to the dairy producer committees, thank you for your invaluable input and assistance. And finally, to all other dairy industry partners, including processors and the ODC, transporters and the OMTA, those we work with in other provinces, in government, and in academia, we express our sincere thanks for your advice, support, and cooperation. This concludes our video presentation for the annual report for 2014. This completes the summary of the annual report that has been signed by Bill Emmett, chair of the board, and Graham Lloyd, secretary to the board. Please take the time to read the full annual report for an in-depth review of the organization's activities during the past year.